Hello and welcome to this news update on CCTV International. I'm Pan Deng in Beijing. The State Council has mapped out China's plan to tackle climate change. It announced that the country is going to reduce the intensity of carbon dioxide emission per unit of GDP in 2020 by 40 to 45% compared with 2005 levels.
China unveiled its first firm target to curb greenhouse gas emissions on Thursday. The State Council said it promises to cut carbon intensity up to 45% by 2020. The move is a binding goal that will also strengthen various policies to reach the target, including taxation and financial measures. Meanwhile, China has set a goal to supply 15% of primary energy consumption with non-fossil fuels by 2020. The country will also increase its forest carbon sink by 40 million hectares and its forest coverage stock volume by over 1 billion cubic meters.
China is still a developing country. Its per capita GDP is only about $3,000. Its economic development level is relatively low. China is at an important stage of accelerated industrialization and urbanization. We face enormous pressures and difficulties for the control of greenhouse gas emissions. Even so, the government set out targets for long-term benefits of the human race. This is a voluntary action taken by the Chinese government. It demonstrates the responsibility and determination China has in coping with the issue of climate change.
The Chinese cabinet reiterated the principled stand of implementing the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and the Kyoto Protocol. China also said that the UNFCCC and the Kyoto Protocol should be carried out in a comprehensive, effective and lasting way. It said alleviating emissions, adaptation, technology transfers and financial support should be coordinated in a way to help bring about positive results for the upcoming UN Climate Change Conference in December in Copenhagen.
China values international cooperation in handling climate change. Recently, Chinese leaders have raised the issue at a number of diplomatic occasions. For example, the dialogue between President Hu Jintao and U.S. President Barack Obama in Beijing, the APEC leaders meeting in Singapore, and the Sino-African Forum in Egypt. In December, Premier Wen Jiabao will attend the Copenhagen conference. Climate change has become indeed a key task of China's diplomacy.
Officials also said that climate change is both an environmental issue as well as an economic one. Developed nations should pay attention to the reasonable needs of less developed countries and cooperate to tackle the global problem. Earlier, the Obama administration said it would pledge to cut U.S. greenhouse gas emissions by roughly 17% below 2005 levels by 2020. Wang Xiqing, CCTV.
Premier Wen Jiabao will take part in the climate summit in Copenhagen next month. The Foreign Ministry says the Premier's attendance shows China's commitment to reduce greenhouse emissions. The ministry also called for more global efforts on the climate issue.
China thinks that according to the Bali Action Plan, all developed countries should bear comparable and quantized emission targets. Each one of the respective countries should try their best to push the Copenhagen conference towards a fruitful result.
To understand more on China's emission reduction targets, we spoke earlier with Dr. Qi Ye from Tsinghua University. He said China's moves will contribute greatly to global efforts in tackling climate change.
Well, in September this year, President Hu Jintao, in his address to UN Conference on Climate Change, he made a solemn commitment that China will reduce the carbon intensity by a notable margin by the year 2020 as compared to the year 2005. I think today's announcement just went one step further to provide a concrete and a specific numerical target. So this target is a required target. It is going to be incorporated in the 12th five-year plan, the 13th five-year plan, and the 14th five-year plan as well. So this is a very, very serious target. 40% to 45% the cuts. So I think this is represents a very significant contribution that China makes for the Copenhagen, for a successful Copenhagen.